Okay, good morning everyone and welcome to our breakfast seminar, Making the Right Choices, the Easy Choices, Smart Workplace Design for a Healthy, Safe and Productive Workplace. As you may or may not be aware, this is the third seminar in our Healthy, Safe, Productive series, which is really specialising in empowering and educating small to medium business. My name is Katrina Walton, I'm Wellness Director and I'm one of the co-coordinators of today's event. Now, before we do get started, I would just like to express a sincere welcome to Bradley Conn, who's one of the directors here at Business Depot, who are the generous sponsor of today's event. So thank you, Bradley, thank you.
No worries, thank you, Katrina. Thanks, Katrina, and thank you all for coming along this morning and supporting this series of seminars. My name's, as Katrina mentioned, my name's Bradley Conn. I'm one of 4 directors here at Business Depot. As you can probably imagine, with the last name Conn, I was always going to be an accountant, so my career is pretty much mapped out for me fairly early. And welcome, by the way, to our offices here at James Street. All of the team here, we're very proud to be associated with this series of seminars, and we really hope that you take some valuable and some good stuff away from this morning's session. For those that haven't been to our offices here before, you've probably picked up that we definitely recognise the importance of design, layout and style when it comes to the workplace. This is probably not what people would regard as your typical accounting business's office layout. That's fair enough. We're trying and striving not to be your typical accounting firm, but that's another story for another day. For us, the benefits of a good designed workplace, it's crystal clear and it's very, very important. If done correctly, there's just so many positive things that can come out of it. It encourages and fosters team engagement, team morale goes through the roof. You get the situation where people really want to come to work and put in their 110% all day, every day. And if done properly, it can create a really good, positive, collaborative environment, which then can lead to a more efficient workplace, more productivity, a more productive environment, and then just overall better performance. Our example of the collaborative space is just here behind this soundproof curtain that we've set up for this morning. Look, the bottom line is, for me anyway, you spend an awful lot of time at work, rightly or wrongly, so it makes perfect sense to make that time as productive, as safe and as pleasurable as possible. So, look, that's probably enough for me. I'm not here just to fly the Business Depot flag this morning. I'm looking forward to taking my seat at the back of the room and soaking some of the value bombs that I'm sure are going to drop this morning. So, welcome again, and I'll hand you back to Katrina. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Bradley. I now have the great pleasure of introducing my colleague and co-organiser of this series, Jo Kitney, who is Director of Kitney OHS, and she's going to run us through the journey for this morning. Thanks.
Thanks, Katrina. Okay, so as Katrina mentioned, this is the third seminar in a series of 4 that Katrina and I started developing at the front end of last year. And we felt that there was a real opportunity to link together health and safety experience or expertise and then also wellness and wellbeing. So the 2 of us put our heads together and came up with a 4-part series, which is what you see on the slide here. And here we are, already 9 months on and into our 3rd seminar. And I'm absolutely delighted to get onto the subject of smart design, because whilst those of you who are familiar with the health and safety legislation will know that there is upstream responsibilities for those that design plant or equipment or structures to ensure that they're inherently safe. However, from a health, safety and a wellbeing perspective, there's so much more to design than actually just considering those safety aspects. And so by bringing together the touch of health, wellbeing and safety, we're providing you a presentation today which has 4 TED-type talks. So the aim is to give you about 15 minutes on each of these topics. So that's looking at the general work environment that somebody is within, and we're delighted that Melissa Marsden, who is the Director of Marsden Collective, to join us today. Melissa has about over 15 years experience in interior design and has designed anything from airport lounges right the way through to multi-rise hospitality and high-rise building interior design elements. So we're delighted to have her expertise in the room. We're also delighted to welcome Sarah Hazel. Sarah is an ergonomics and human-centred design specialist, currently studying a PhD on the very subject. So she's very much a thought leader and leading edge in terms of looking at the way in which an individual does their job and their interaction with the task or activity, therefore looking at it from a design perspective. You then have myself talking about system design. So if we're wanting individuals to know what to do in the workplace, to complete those pre-start checks or undertake those toolbox talks, how do we make that happen, particularly in an environment where we've got multi-sites or different locations on which staff are working. And so therefore we can move away from your traditional health and safety manual into something that has more of an ICT feel. And that's the reason for talking about design there in terms of system. And finally, we have workplace wellness, which is where Katrina comes in terms of her drive and passion to create an environment where people make good and healthy choices within the working environment they're in. And Brad touched a minute ago about how much time people spend at work. So in a 50-year career, which for most of us that would probably be the case, particularly with the retirement age stretching out, we know that about 35% of your waking hours will be spent at work. And the same for those who you maybe can make decisions in terms of the environment or the workplace that they're also working in. So we've got a real opportunity to think about how not only ourselves, but also those that we work with can both have a safe, healthy and also productive environment. We'll have a Q&A panel at the end, good opportunity to ask any questions that may come up as we're going through the presentations. And you will have noticed that there's something very unique about the business depot, and that is its informal nature. So at the back end of the presentations, we'll have some more networking, there will be some more breakfast, and you can grab a drink at the end and catch up hopefully with colleagues you know and some faces that perhaps you've had the opportunity to meet this morning. So in terms of thinking about smart design, some of you may be familiar with this quote. For those that have heard of a gentleman called James Reason, he's a professor at the University of Manchester, and back in 2000 he submitted a paper on the potential or the reasons for accident causation. And one of the elements that he actually talked about in that paper was the fact that you cannot change human conditions. So we are inherently hot-wired the way that we are. We may be able to train and educate, but ultimately we can have a really big influence over the way in which somebody works, thinks, feels, the actions they take by the environment within which they're in. And that's very much the purpose for this morning's session, is to think about how we create that good environment for individuals when they come into the workplace. So in terms of James Reason's work, for those that work in health and safety and others that maybe have stepped into our arena, you may be familiar with something called the Swiss cheese model of accident causation. And just out of interest actually, how many people here have heard of the Swiss cheese model? Okay, so that was about 50%. Well, for those that haven't heard of it, basically the principle behind James Reason's work is that if you have lines of defence in order to encourage somebody to make good choices, to be able to work safely, by putting in place those lines of defence, it is likely to prevent an accident. Or if one of the lines of defence falls over, you've then got an opportunity for the next line of defence to prevent that accident or incident happening. Of course, however, if you've got not many lines of defence and your lines of defence have holes in them, like Swiss cheese, you can then have the potential for them to line up. It may not happen every time, but sometimes it does. And so that's the reason, or the principle behind the Swiss cheese model. What we're trying to do when we think about smart design is to enable those lines of defence. Now within the model here, this obviously has been well recognised within health and safety, but if we just flip that model into health, safety, wellness and well-being and productivity within the workplace, we can actually similarly put in lines of defence to encourage people to think safely, to take a healthy choice when they come into the workplace. And in the model here, the term that relates to that is something called latent. So we create conditions within the workplace that encourage those good choices. And very much that's the essence and the theme behind this morning's presentations. So it's really about helping to make the right choice